Marriage is a sacred promise, a vow spoken before family, friends, and God. It's meant to be a fortress, unyielding against the storms of life. But for some, that fortress crumbles faster than anyone could imagine, leaving nothing but rubble and regret. Tonight, we dive into the unraveling of David and Tasha Carter, a young black couple from Atlanta whose love story captivated their community. Their romance was a whirlwind, their wedding a celebration of dreams realized. But just 3 months after saying, "I do," David would uncover a betrayal so raw, so personal, it would tear his world apart. What followed wasn't just heartbreak. It was a viral scandal that shook an entire city, sparked heated debates, and left millions questioning the nature of love, loyalty, and truth in the digital age. This is the tragic downfall of a love story built on lies, and how one man's public heartbreak exposed the secret life of the woman he thought he knew. Thank you to all our loyal viewers and subscribers. Your support means everything. We're here every day with gripping true crime stories, deep dives, and the chilling details you won't hear anywhere else. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss an update. Because here at True Crime Vault, we don't just tell stories, we uncover the truth. David Carter was the kind of man who showed up. At 30, he was a software consultant with quiet confidence and unwavering loyalty. His co-workers called him the Rock, the guy you call at 2 a.m. if your car broke down. Raised by parents married 35 years, David believed in forever love, in commitment that weathered every storm. Tasha Miller was his opposite, a 27-year-old medical assistant whose magnetic energy could light up any room. Her smile disarmed strangers. Her laugh made you feel like family. Working in Grady Hospital's ER, she was bold, independent, and fearless, raised by a single mother who taught her to chase her dreams without apology. They met at a charity gala on Valentine's Day, 2022. David was handling tech setup, standing quietly by the bar in his navy suit. Tasha, shimmering in red, worked the room like a professional, but David noticed something others didn't. Moments when her bright smile faded into vulnerability when she thought no one was looking. Their eyes met during a speech about changing lives one child at a time. When she approached him later, teasing about his serious face, something electric passed between them. "You look like you could use a break from all that problem solving," she said with a grin. They danced to 3 songs, At Last, The Way You Look Tonight, and Isn't She Lovely. By the 3rd song, they were talking more than dancing, sharing stories and whispered conversations that felt impossibly intimate. They talked until 2 a.m. in the hotel lobby, discovering unexpected compatibility. David shared his pressure to be perfect for parents who'd sacrificed everything. Tasha revealed her mother's strength and her own hunger for security she'd never known growing up. As they walked to the parking garage, Tasha did something characteristic of their relationship. She wrote her number on a business card, added a small heart, slipped it into his jacket pocket, and kissed his cheek. "Call me Tuesday," she whispered. "I'll work double tomorrow, but Tuesday will be perfect." David watched her drive away, knowing his life had just shifted on its axis. Their first date lasted 8 hours. Aquarium, lunch, walking through Centennial Park, talking about everything and nothing. Tasha was enchanted by beluga whales. David was enchanted watching her experience wonder. "Everyone's photogenic when they're happy," she insisted, pulling him into selfies despite his protests. Her Instagram post read, "Sometimes the best adventures are the ones you never planned. Red heart, #new beginnings." By their 5th date, they were finishing each other's sentences. By their 10th, David had met Denise Miller, who declared him good people after he spent an hour installing her ceiling fan. Their social media became a love story. David teaching Tasha to change a tire, "My man makes sure I can handle anything, flex biceps," painting her apartment together. Teamwork makes the dream work. Surprise Alicia Keys tickets. He remembered a conversation from 3 months ago, loudly crying face, red heart. David, who barely posted yearly before Tasha, found himself documenting their life. Their friends watched in amazement. David had never been this happy, this complete. Even Darnell Brooks, David's best friend since Georgia Tech, was supportive. Where David was reserved, Darnell was outgoing. Where David was careful, Darnell was impulsive. They maintained friendship through different paths because they genuinely cared about each other. Man, "I've never seen you like this," Darnell said during a Hawks game. "She's good for you, D. Real good. I'm going to ask her to marry me," David said quietly. "For real? When?" "Soon. When you know, right?" What David didn't see was the strange expression crossing Darnell's face. Something between surprise and something darker. But it vanished so quickly, David wondered if he'd imagined it. David spent 2 months planning the perfect proposal. On a warm April evening, he convinced Tasha they were going to dinner, then drove to the parking garage rooftop where they'd first kissed. The space was transformed. String lights, rose petals, a table set with white peonies. "This is where I first knew I loved you," he said, taking her hands. "Do you remember? You told me about singing 'Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star' to calm a scared child in the ER. I thought, this woman has the most beautiful heart I've ever seen." The ring was perfect, vintage setting, elegant but not ostentatious. David had worked with a jeweler for weeks. "Tasha Nicole Miller, will you take that leap with me? Will you marry me?" "Yes," she sobbed, laughing and crying. Yes, 1,000 times yes." The engagement video she posted showed them both in tears. "He said yes to me too. David Carter, you're my answer prayer. I can't wait to be your wife. Ring red heart, #engage, my forever person." The wedding was everything they dreamed. 300 guests at the Four Seasons Atlanta, white roses and cascading greenery. David's vows brought tears to half the congregation. "Tasha, you taught me that love isn't just compatibility, it's growth. You've made me braver, kinder, more open to possibility. I promise to choose you every day for the rest of my life." Darnell's best man speech was heartfelt. "I've known David 12 years, and I've never seen him as complete as he is with Tasha. You two are proof that soulmates exist. To David and Tasha, may your love story be everything you've dreamed and more." The night ended with sparklers and promises. Their honeymoon in Belize filled social media with bliss. Snorkeling, sunset dinners, exploring ruins. They looked radiant, deeply in love, like people who'd found their happily ever after. Nobody could have predicted how quickly it would all fall apart. The first month of marriage was perfect. Coming home to Tasha felt like a gift. She'd leave notes in his laptop bag. "Have a great day, husband." And he'd surprise her with coffee on early shift days. But by month 2, cracks appeared. Tasha, who used to greet him enthusiastically, began staying in the bedroom when he came home, claiming exhaustion. Their long dinner conversations became shorter, interrupted by her phone checking with increasing frequency. "Everything okay?" David asked one evening after Tasha barely touched her food, focused on her screen. "Fine," she said without looking up. "Just work drama." But David noticed her phone tilted away from him, and when he tried to peek, she quickly locked it. Physical intimacy changed too. Tasha, who used to curl against him nightly, stayed on her side of the bed, claiming she was too warm or tired. Spontaneous affection, quick kisses, hand-holding, playful touches became rare. The phone became the biggest issue. Tasha, who once shared everything, now guarded her device like state secrets. She'd step outside for calls, claiming they were from her mother, but her voice sounded different, softer, more intimate. Late nights, David would wake to find Tasha in the bathroom, screen glow visible under the door. When she'd return, he'd pretend to sleep, feeling her tension as she lay awake for hours. "Is everything all right at work?" he asked one morning. "You seem stressed." "It's fine," she snapped, then caught herself. "Sorry, I didn't sleep well. We're short-staffed. I'm picking up extra shifts." But David had called the hospital once when Tasha was supposedly working late, only to be told she'd left hours earlier. When he asked about it, she claimed scheduling mix-ups. Social media posts became another red flag. Tasha, who documented every moment with joy, suddenly stopped posting pictures of them together. Her Instagram is filled with selfies, coworker photos, inspirational quotes about finding yourself, and embracing change. The breaking point came during their 2-month anniversary. David planned a surprise dinner with takeout from their first date restaurant and a playlist of meaningful songs. He'd bought a birthstone necklace and written a note about gratitude for their life together. When Tasha came home, she barely glanced at the setup. "I can't do this tonight. I'm exhausted. Can we just order pizza?" "I already ordered from Busy Bee," David said, hurt evident. I thought we could celebrate. Celebrate what? It's Tuesday, David. It's our 2-month anniversary. Something unreadable crossed her face. Right, of course. Sorry, I forgot. But her apology felt hollow. They ate in near silence, Tasha picking at food while scrolling Instagram. Every text Buzz made her quickly read and respond, fingers flying. Who keeps texting you? David finally asked. My mom, she said without looking up. But David had seen enough of Tasha texting her mother to know this was different. These messages were making her smile. Not her public smile, but something private and secretive. A smile she used to save for him. That night, as Tasha showered, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. David stared at it, heart racing. He'd never snooped, had always believed trust was foundational, but doubt had been eating at him for weeks. He didn't look, but he wanted to, desperately. The truth came on a rainy Tuesday night in late August, exactly 3 months after their wedding. Tasha had fallen asleep on the couch while watching Netflix, texting someone throughout the entire movie. Every buzz had spiked David's anxiety, but he'd stayed quiet. Now she lay curled on her sectional, phone dark but unlocked beside her. David stood in the kitchen loading the dishwasher, watching his wife sleep and fighting an internal war. He wasn't a snooper, but healthy relationships were built on honesty, and David couldn't shake the feeling his wife had been lying for months. His hand shook as he approached the couch. He'd just move her phone to the table, wake her gently, and suggest bed. But as he reached for the device, the screen lit up with a new message. The preview was visible. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Miss you already, face blowing a kiss. The sender's name made David's blood freeze. DB. Darnell Brooks. His best friend. His best man. David's hands trembled as he opened the message thread. What he found destroyed him. Months of messages. Explicit photos. Hotel confirmations. Plans to meet while David worked. Conversations about guilt followed by plans to see each other again. Messages from hours earlier. Tasha, 8:47 p.m. He's watching some boring documentary. All I can think about is this afternoon. DB, 8:48 p.m. Same here. You drive me crazy, T. I know this is wrong, but I can't stop. Tasha, 8:51 p.m. We said we'd end it after the wedding. That was 3 months ago. DB, 8:52 p.m. I tried. But seeing you with him, pretending everything's normal, it's killing me. Tasha, 8:55 p.m. What are we doing, D? This is going to destroy him. DB, 8:56 p.m. I don't know. All I know is I love you. David scrolled up, heartbreaking with each message. The affair hadn't started after the wedding. It had been going on since before the engagement. The first message was from February, days after David and Tasha's first date. There were intimate photos, videos of them together, emotional conversations about David. DB, March 10th. I feel like shit, T. He's my best friend. He loves you so much. Tasha, March 10th. I love him too, just not the way I love you. He's safe, stable, everything I thought I wanted. But with you, I feel alive. The worst part, they'd been together while David was at the bachelor party Darnell had organized. His best friend had planned David's last single night to create an opportunity to be with his bride-to-be. Recent messages showed they'd met that very afternoon. DB, 9:15 p.m. Thank you for today. I know it was hard. Tasha, 9:25 p.m. We can never tell him. This secret dies with us. DB, 9:30 p.m. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Miss you already, face blowing a kiss. That was the message that appeared while David held the phone, sent after Tasha had fallen asleep, after she'd promised it was over. David sank to the floor, phone trembling in his hands. 3 months married, and his wife had been having an affair with his best friend the entire time. Not just physical, emotional. They were in love with each other. Everything had been a lie. Their engagement, wedding, honeymoon, promises of forever, all built on deception. While David planned their future and wrote heartfelt vows, Tasha was in love with someone else. The cruelest part, she seemed to genuinely care about him. Her messages showed real remorse, real conflict. She wasn't heartless. She was torn between safe love with David and passionate love with Darnell. Somehow, that made it worse. David looked at his wife, sleeping peacefully, beautiful even in slumber. 3 hours ago, he thought he was the luckiest man alive. Now his entire life felt like a cruel joke. He took screenshots of the most damning messages, then carefully placed the phone back in Tasha's hand. He didn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment through this horrible new lens. Every distant moment, every unexplained absence, every guilty expression, it all made sense now. By morning, David had made his decision. But first, he needed the world to know what they'd done to him. David waited until Tasha left for her hospital shift. She kissed him goodbye, a quick peck while grabbing coffee and keys, the same routine for months. But now it felt like one more lie. "I'll be home around 6, she said, pausing at the door. "Maybe that new Thai place tonight?" "Sure," David managed. "Sounds nice." After she left, David sat in their kitchen, surrounded by wedding photos, Tasha's coffee mug, a grocery list in her handwriting, and felt anger rising alongside heartbreak. Not just anger at the betrayal, but at how completely they'd fooled him. How stupid they must have thought he was. David pulled out his phone and started recording. "My name is David Carter," he began, voice shaking. "3 months ago, I married the woman I thought was the love of my life. We had a beautiful wedding. 300 people celebrated with us. I wrote vows from my heart, promising to love her through anything." He paused, taking a breath. "Last night, I found out she's been having an affair with my best friend. Not for weeks, for over a year. Since before we got engaged. They were together while I planned our wedding, during our engagement, while we were on our honeymoon." David's voice grew stronger. "I gave her everything. My heart, my trust, my future. I rearranged my life around loving her. And she was in love with someone else the whole time. With the man who stood beside me as best man, who gave a speech about our unbreakable love, who looked me in the eye and pretended to be happy for us while secretly sleeping with my wife." He held up screenshots. "I have proof. Hotel receipts, text messages, photos. They thought I was too stupid to figure it out, too trusting to suspect. They were careful, using cash, and meeting while I worked. But they got sloppy." David's voice cracked. "I don't know why I'm making this video. Maybe I need people to know what happened. Maybe I'm tired of being the only one who didn't know the truth about my own life. Maybe after 30 years of being the good guy, I'm done protecting people who destroyed me." He wiped his eyes. "Their names are Tasha Miller Carter and Darnell Brooks. They live in Atlanta. She works at Grady Memorial Hospital. He's a mechanic at Brooks Auto. For over a year, they've had an affair behind my back while I planned a future that was never real." His voice grew resolved. "So now everyone knows. My marriage was a lie. My best friend betrayed me. And I'm done pretending everything is fine." David ended the recording, uploaded it to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, tagging both Tasha and Darnell. He attached the screenshots and wrote, 3 months married, 1 year betrayed. The truth always comes out eventually." Then he turned off his phone and went for a walk. David's 3-hour walk gave him time to process what he'd done. When he returned and turned on his phone, he was unprepared for the response. 347 missed calls, 1,204 text messages, 89 voicemails. His social media showed thousands of notifications. The video had been shared over 10,000 times in 3 hours. Responses were overwhelmingly supportive. "David, I'm so sorry this happened. You deserve better. This broke my heart. Your pain is so real. I hope you find peace. Been there, brother. You'll get through this. Thank you for having the courage to tell your truth." Critics existed too. "This is messy. Handle it privately. Putting people on blast isn't healthy. Maybe look at why your wife went elsewhere for love." David ignored negativity and focused on support. Strangers shared their own betrayal stories, offering encouragement and genuine empathy. His mother called. "David, honey, what's going on?" Jennifer just called about some video. After explaining everything, Beverly declared, "We're driving down tonight. You shouldn't be alone." By evening, local news stations were calling. David ignored them all. Tasha tried reaching him around 4 p.m. 12 missed calls, then desperate texts. "David, please answer. We need to talk about this. You can't destroy people's lives on the internet. I know you're hurt, but this isn't fair. Call me back. We can work through this." Darnell's attempts were more desperate. "D, please pick up. Let me explain. You're my brother, man. Don't end our friendship like this. I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry." David didn't respond. What was there to say? By the time his parents arrived, The video had 50,000 shares. Hashtag Justice for David was trending on Twitter, along with hashtag 3-month marriage and hashtag Atlanta cheater. TikTokers were making reaction videos. YouTube channels analyzed his pain for content. "This is insane," David told his parents. "I just wanted people to know the truth. The internet amplifies everything," Marcus said gently. "Right now, people are responding to your honesty. But what about Tasha and Darnell? Their lives are being destroyed." Beverly took her son's face in her hands. "Baby, they destroyed their own lives when they chose to betray you. You didn't make them have an affair. You just told the truth." Within 48 hours, David's story had reached every corner of the internet. The video had over 2 million views across platforms. Local Atlanta news ran segments. National shows debated public shaming ethics. The impact on Tasha and Darnell was swift and merciless. Tasha's Instagram flooded with comments from cheater to worse. Her workplace became a nightmare. Patients recognized her, coworkers whispered, hospital administration called meetings about professional reputation. "People were taking pictures of me at the grocery store," she texted David desperately. "Strangers are confronting me at work. This has gone too far." David had turned off read receipts and wasn't responding. Someone found her mother, Denise, flooding her social media with blame for how she'd raised her daughter. The woman who'd worked 2 jobs to give Tasha opportunities was now being attacked by strangers online. Darnell faced even harsher consequences. His betrayal of David, best friend and best man, struck people as particularly heinous. Brooks Auto, the family business, started losing customers who'd seen the viral video. His family was mortified, with his sister posting, "I don't claim this man. What he did to David is unforgivable." Someone leaked Darnell's phone number. He got hundreds of calls from strangers, some calling him garbage, others making threats. He stopped coming to work, stopped answering his phone, essentially went into hiding. The divorce was finalized in under 2 months. David refused to meet Tasha's eyes in the lawyer's office, signing papers in silence. He sold their apartment, splitting possessions with clinical precision. The life they'd built was dismantled as quickly as it had begun. David spoke publicly once more. In a podcast interview months later, "I still struggle to trust. I thought marriage was forever, but forever ended in 90 days. I loved her with everything I had, and I don't know if I'll ever feel that way again." Tasha left Atlanta, moving to North Carolina to escape the spotlight. She changed her social media name, started a new job, and tried to rebuild. But the internet's memory is long. Her story followed her, whispered in news circles, a shadow she couldn't outrun. Darnell vanished entirely. Some said he moved to Texas, others that he was living with relatives, too ashamed to face the world. His betrayal had cost him everything: friendships, reputation, his place in the community he'd called home. But David's story lived on. Every few months, the video resurfaced, shared by new accounts, sparking fresh debates about love, loyalty, and public shaming. TikTokers recreated it in dramatic skits. True crime YouTubers analyzed it. Strangers argued in comment sections. 2 years later, David had slowly rebuilt. He'd bought a house in a quieter neighborhood, started dating again, carefully, with a teacher named Sarah who had no social media presence, and judged her by the man she knew, not the viral video she'd seen. "Do you ever regret it?" Sarah asked one evening as they cooked dinner. Making the video, David considered while chopping vegetables. "I regret that it had to happen. I regret that they put me in a position where I felt like that was my only option. But no, I don't regret telling the truth about what they did to me. Even knowing how public it became, they affected their own lives when they chose to betray me," David said firmly. "I just made sure people knew what they'd done." David's story had unexpectedly inspired others. His refusal to stay silent gave other betrayed partners permission to speak their truth, creating an online community of people who refused to protect those who'd hurt them. "Your video saved my life," one woman wrote. "I was blaming myself for my husband's affair. Seeing you refuse to take responsibility for their choices helped me understand I wasn't crazy. I was just lied to." The viral fame brought opportunities: book deals, speaking engagements, consulting with divorce attorneys. David accepted a few speaking opportunities with support groups. "I didn't set out to become a poster child for betrayed spouses," he told one group. "But if my story helps even one person feel less alone, less willing to protect people who hurt them, then maybe some good came from all this pain. 5 years after the video changed everything, David stood in his backyard, watching Sarah tend their garden. She was pregnant with their first child, and David felt cautiously optimistic about the future for the first time since his world collapsed. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd never met her?" Sarah asked, hand resting on her belly. David considered the question. "Sometimes. But I don't think I'd be who I am now without going through all that. The pain, the betrayal, the public scrutiny. It taught me things about myself I needed to learn." "Like what?" "Like how strong I really am. Like the difference between being kind and being naive. Like the fact that I deserve people who choose me every day, not just when it's convenient." David took Sarah's hand. "Like the fact that real love doesn't require sneaking around or choosing between people." Their young son ran over, demanding to be lifted onto David's lap. As David hugged his child, he thought about the man he'd been 6 years ago, trusting to a fault, believing the best about everyone. That man had been broken by betrayal, but not destroyed. Instead, he'd been transformed into someone stronger, wiser, more discerning. Someone who could love deeply while protecting himself. Someone who understood the difference between forgiveness and foolishness. "Tell me a story," his son demanded. David smiled, looking at the life he'd built from the rubble of his first marriage. "Once upon a time," he began, "there was a man who learned that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you can also be the thing that saves you." David's viral video continued circulating years later, resurfacing whenever infidelity scandals hit the news. For many, it remained the definitive example of how to handle betrayal in the digital age, not with quiet dignity, but with public truth-telling. Tasha had eventually found some peace in North Carolina, working at a rural clinic where her past was unknown. She'd never remarried or had children, but built a quiet life focused on helping others. The guilt never fully left, but she'd learned to carry it without being crushed. Darnell had moved back to Georgia, though not Atlanta. He'd opened a small garage where nobody knew his story, even started dating someone who knew his past and chose to see beyond it. But he'd never fully forgiven himself for destroying his friendship with David. And David, he'd learned that some stories don't have neat endings, that healing isn't linear, and that the best revenge is living well. His viral moment had defined a period of his life, but didn't define his entire existence. The greatest irony was that in trying to destroy David's happiness, Tasha and Darnell had ultimately led him to a deeper, more authentic kind of joy. His second marriage was built on radical honesty, mutual respect, and hard-won wisdom from surviving betrayal. Sometimes, late at night, David would think about the man he'd been before that rainy Tuesday when he'd picked up Tasha's phone. That man had been happy, but it was happiness built on illusion. The man he'd become was happy too, but it was happiness built on truth. And truth, David had learned, was always worth fighting for. Love can lift us to the highest peaks, but it can also plunge us into the deepest valleys. For David Carter, the vows he spoke were real, etched into his soul with the permanence of faith. The betrayal he suffered was equally real, a wound that changed him in ways he's still discovering. When the truth spilled onto the internet, it didn't just shatter his marriage. It became a mirror for millions, reflecting the fragility of trust and the power of choosing transparency over protection. In a world where social media amplifies every moment, heartbreak can become a spectacle. But sometimes that spectacle serves a greater purpose. The greatest crime wasn't just the affair. It was the year of lies that preceded it, the systematic destruction of trust, the use of love as a weapon. But perhaps the greatest victory was David's refusal to suffer in silence, to protect people who had spent months protecting only themselves. This was the story of David and Tasha Carter, a love story that became a cautionary tale, a 3-month marriage that revealed a year-long deception, a viral video that sparked a movement, a heartbreak that refused to stay hidden. Some stories don't have fairy tale endings, but the most powerful stories show us how to survive when fairy tales turn into nightmares, how to find truth in a world full of lies, and how to build something real from the ruins of something false. In the end, David's story wasn't about revenge or viral fame or public shaming. It was about the radical act of refusing to be complicit in your own deception. It was about choosing truth over comfort, transparency over protection, healing over reputation. If this story has moved you, if you've seen yourself in David's pain or found strength in his refusal to stay quiet, you're not alone. This channel is dedicated to uncovering the raw truth behind human relationships, the betrayals that destroy us, the lies that consume us, and the courage it takes to rebuild from ashes. Hit subscribe now and join over 500,000 truth seekers who refuse to accept comfortable lies over painful truths. Ring that notification bell because we're dropping a new story every week. Stories of love turned toxic, trust weaponized, and ordinary people finding extraordinary strength in their darkest moments. Drop a comment below. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely? How did you find the courage to speak your truth? Your story could be the lifeline someone else desperately needs. Because in a world that often rewards silence and punishes honesty, your voice, your truth, is the most radical act of all. Don't let anyone convince you to suffer in silence. Don't let betrayers hide behind your kindness. Subscribe now. The truth is waiting, and so are we.